Hey guys, Karis here. This is my Module 3 Padlet discussion. And so starting off, I wanted to talk about something that I found interesting in the textbook, which I actually have it propped up right here, but it's the importance of nurture in relationships. I think that nurture is so important because I don't think nature should dictate everything regarding marriage and family and I guess just like your origin. Nurture is so important because the environment really does I guess determine factors in like your interactions in relationships with people, and also just things like the system theories, and especially in relationships, since this chapter was about gender roles. Nurture and like how you were brought up can kind of like affect your gender roles in relationships, which leads me to move into my next point, which is actually about the PDF. So the second thing I wanted to bring up was how I thought it was interesting and important that some like married couples, especially heterosexuals, are big on like equality in gender roles rather than traditional, which I love because I think sometimes like it's kind of just materialistic for men to be dominant and women to be submissive. I think that equality is such a big thing in relationships, especially nowadays, especially because like women and men both work, and who has to say that men make more money in the relationship? Maybe they can, but sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes the women make more. And this can also be with like being a stay-at-home mom versus a stay-at-home dad. Or maybe they both work and they both come home to their kids. But so I want to talk about there. And then in the Be a Man video, something that stuck out to me most was when he talked about how relationships are like the one thing you're going to remember before you die. And I think that just really stuck out to me because relationships are something that I find very important in my life, because they're going to be like either a lifelong thing or they could be cut short. And the impact you leave on people is so important. And especially when it comes to gender roles, I think relationships need to be talked about more, because a lot of men are usually categorized as being like not as like into their relationships, whereas women are more into their relationships, which I don't think that's true at all, especially when it comes to friends or romantic relationships. And then finally, for my final video, I picked the Barbie one about America, when she was basically talking to Barbie in the Barbie movie about just like how women are usually like categorized as never being enough. And I think as a woman who's also a minority specifically, I genuinely agree with that, because like we can never do good enough for society, which I think is really sad and messed up. But I am glad that a lot of things like feminism and equality are starting to continue to rise, because that's what the world needs. We need change in these areas so that more people can understand that sometimes gender roles honestly just aren't needed, and that everyone should be treated as equal. But yeah, that's the end of my video.